Hi there, and welcome to the Anxiety Society podcast, brought to you by Jordan Devlin and Scott Hope. This is a show where you can listen to people talk about their life experiences in relation to mental health. Visit Jordan's Anxiety Society on Facebook for updates on how you can get involved in future podcasts. But for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy. So, this is now episode 7 of the Anxiety Society podcast. I've got Scotty back with me today, and today we're joined by Kate Herdman, who's a friend of myself. Granted, I haven't seen in God knows long, Kate. It's been a while, eh?
Too long, far too long.
I know. That's what happens when the pub's shut, eh? That's the only time you've seen each other.
It's the only time I see people in the pub.
I can. But aye.
How's
your time, Ash?
It's good to be back, mate. Aye, good to be back. I missed the last one. Enjoyed listening to it as a fan though this time, and instead of recoiling in fucking horror at the sound of my voice. It was good, mate. Enjoyed that last one. It's good to be back. We were just saying before we come, it's unbelievable how nervous we get. I don't know about you, Kate, but
yeah, I'm so nervous.
I know we were sitting there thinking that, like, I was sitting there thinking, like, this is the 7th one we've done, and it's still fucking scary.
Aye.
Mm-hmm.
See, once you get past the first 5 minutes, it's all right. But
yeah, it's when you start getting a like kind of go on, isn't it? It's, at first, when you're trying to make conversation and you're sitting thinking this is a wee bit awkward.
Aye.
I know, because it's so unnatural, like, to sit and do this. Really, we should be doing it more often, but like, never sit and do this. It's fucking difficult.
Especially like obviously we're on Zoom and I've not got a decent enough camera or that, so you're basically just speaking to a voice, eh? So it's weird.
Yeah.
But how's the last year or so been for yourself, Kate, anyway, in regards to the whole COVID stuff and that?
So to be fair, I've had it pretty easy. I've been working kind of on and off. I've been on furlough some of the time. I still stay at home with my mum and dad, so that's made it a lot easier because I stay at home. My little sister's here as well, so it means I've always had someone like round me, which is a huge help. I couldn't imagine living by myself during this. My little sister's like my best friend, so it's been quite nice actually. It's nice to have a break from work as well. To have some time for like yourself and be able to get out for decent walks and taking some time off the drinking, I guess, probably for your mental health as well, for those who have managed to not just get on it every weekend anyway. I've definitely drank a lot less because I've not been going out. So yeah, I've not found it too bad. There's times when I just really miss people's company because my mum's very strict with the COVID rules, and I mean, so I've barely been out the house unless I'm going to work or going for a walk. So weeks when it's really bad weather and I'm off, I feel I kind of struggle to get out of my room some days. But it's just finding things that you can pick you up and keep you going. So when I do get out for my walks and stuff, that definitely helps.
That's the thing, especially last week, what a difference that was with the weather.
Oh, I know. I've been off on furlough for about 3-4 weeks, and last week I was back in work. I was sick.
You're joking.
I was off on Friday and we decided we'd go to Leaven Beach, and it was overcast and it was totally sunny here. I was like, this is just my luck.
And see, you were saying like the sort of that you've drank less. Was that like a conscious effort, or is that just sort of happened naturally, do you think?
I think kind of naturally. I think for me, it's the social aspect of drinking I like. So, you know, I could go out sober. I just really like being in company and stuff. So when I'm just in the house, unless I'm sitting having a drink with like my little sister and my mum and dad, I'm quite like, I'll maybe have a couple of beers or anything, but I don't really sit and drink by myself. I don't like drinking in the house so much because I get too restless. I want to chat to people. I want to move about and dance, and then I just do everyone in the house's head in most of the time. So like I still drink, we're still having a few, but not like I was before. There can be a few weeks when I don't have anything at all, because yeah, it's totally the social aspect. I just like talking crap to people for hours.
The opposite. Genuinely, like, see, since it's the first lockdown, I think I've probably consumed more in the last year than I have in the 23 before it.
And there's a lot like that, to be fair. Most, like a lot of people I've seen are just on it all the time. I guess it's the only thing that's kind of fun to kind of help them through when there's not much else going on. But it just makes me miss people more. I end up just getting full and bubbly and telling my mum I'm a Pisces and start crying and stuff.
So Ken, how you're saying like you've obviously been a wee bit stricter with rules and stuff. So when you have been like having drinking and having bevy and that, you been doing like Zoom calls with your pals, so you're still getting that kind of social aspect to it, or are you just been?
We've done it to begin with, but we don't really do it much now. Mostly because I hate video calls, and my friends are pretty much the same, so we just kind of end up just messaging each other and stuff. And I do catch up with them quite a lot, but it's mostly over text. I was quite happy when the Zoom kind of died down a wee bit, although I did like House Party. That was fun. I like just
did that not get like hacked or something? Everybody deleted it, but nothing actually happened.
Yeah, well, I think that's what it came out as, but that was a good time. That generally felt like I was back out again, just kind of bounding into anyone's calls that I could.
Where's the kitchen?
There was one night we all had like daft hats and stuff on, yeah. So, you know, that was a wee bit better, but I do find Zoom, I think it's just intense. I'm too restless. I don't like just having to sit in the one place when I'm having a drink, so I get bored on FaceTime.
I can't even remember that being a thing. What was that?
House Party.
Aye.
It was similar to like Zoom and that, but basically you could, if I can remember right, you could like sit in a room yourself and then your pals could just jump in whenever, like no warning or that.
What's the point in that?
It's like a house party, so you can just wander into a room and you reckon what's happening.
So it's just like you and one other person at all times?
No, you can get loads of
folk.
folk.
It can be like loads of people. So I could see that you and Jordan were on a call and I could just bounce in, like with no warning. You wouldn't have to accept me.
I didn't. I only went on it a couple of times then, and I got the fear. I was like, "What if I'm on this and I didn't mean to be on it, and somebody just bounces into my room?"
Well, me and my little sister were sat on it before I realised you could even just come into any chats. And me and her were just like lying in bed, like literally doing double chins and that on camera with each other. And someone just bounced in, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Tremendous! It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, definitely.
So, do you want to tell us just a little bit of background on you then, Kate? So, like, what you've pretty much done with your life so far, any kind of hurdles that you've come across it on the way and stuff, or just let folk care a little bit more about you.
Yeah, of course. Hopefully I'll try not to bubble because I'm rubbish for crying. But anyway, basically, when I was about 15 years old, when I was 15, my uncle killed himself, which was a complete shock. At that time, I hadn't heard of anyone killing himself apart from, like, you know, in movies and stuff like that. So my initial reaction, I was on a holiday at the time. I was in Thailand, and my mum wouldn't let me have my phone when we were like at the airport and stuff, because she knew, but she hadn't told us. And she wouldn't let me have my phone and stuff. And I was thinking, this is really weird. Don't know what's going on. And it wasn't until we got home, like my mum and dad told me, and that was the last thing I thought. They didn't say what had happened. They just said that he died. That thought didn't cross my mind. I thought, oh, car crash, heart attack, just these general things, because at that time it was not known. And at that time I also didn't realise that it was like something to do with a chemical imbalance in the brain. So that was a really hard thing to understand. You know, my uncle was always so happy, he was so loving, me and him got on really well. He was always kind of life and soul of the party. And then he was gone, and I couldn't ever get my head around it, especially then. Now I know kind of a lot more about suicide and depression and stuff, so it does not make any sense. It'll never make any sense to me, but I realised it wasn't a conscious decision as such.
Yeah.
He was in a lot of bother with money and just really down, and he just hid it really well. And so since then, that was really hard as well, because I didn't realise he was even sad. He hid it so well from us. So for years after that, in fact, until about 2 years ago, that it totally plagued my life. Like, I was worried about everyone. Like, I was constantly on edge that I was going to lose someone because I'd had no warning for this. If somebody told me they were upset, and people get upset, especially like girls when we're teenagers, because back in the day, obviously when I was like 16, 17, 18, and we were all emotional about everything all the time, as girls are when they were younger. And I could never let that go. Like, if somebody said they were upset, like, I would be constantly, even if it was somebody I just met when I was out, I didn't really know them, I would always message them to see if they were okay, and constant, like, panicky feelings of, like, who's going to be next and stuff like that. And there's been, after my uncle, there was a few other people in my family that were really depressed as well, to the point that they didn't really want to be here anymore. Luckily, I kind of managed to talk at least one of them out of it. And to this day, he always tells me that he wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me, which is a hard thing to actually hear, because then you feel like you can save everyone, which isn't the case.
Yeah.
So that was really difficult. And I guess from there, I mean, I'm a lot better now. There was a time when my mum said, Kate, the only time you ever tell me you're going out is, oh, so-and-so's not doing well, like I need to go and see them, or someone's texted me, they're feeling down, like I'm going to go and cheer them up, just stuff like that. I never left the house for me anymore. It was always constant worrying about other people. In the last couple of years, I've kind of had a new group of friends who I've just really supportive, and they don't expect so much from me, and that has made it so much easier. And I have kind of distanced myself. I still check up on my friends. I still, if they come to me, I'll be there, obviously, no matter what. But I don't kind of plague myself with this constant worry and panic and thinking that I can help everyone no matter how well I know them. Which I'm a lot happier than I have been previously. I've been lucky enough never to struggle with depression. I do struggle at Christmas and over kind of like the winter period, like a lot of people, but never anything kind of drastic or anything like that. But there has been times when I've just felt I just can't get out of rut, but it was never really about me. It was always just me worrying about other people. So yeah, so that's kind of my story.
See,
a fun one, of course.
see in regards to, like, obviously when you were 15 you're going on holiday and stuff, and obviously your mum and stuff, they're obviously aware of the terrible news. So see, when you did eventually find out, were you angry at them at all for keeping it for you, or can you understand that they wanted you to enjoy your holiday? Because you could literally do nothing to change what's happened, if you know what I mean. No, they done the right thing. I'm a very emotional person, so that would not have been a good idea. We were coming back from Thailand as well, so it's not exactly a short flight. And they done the right thing. My little sister's 6 years younger than me, so she would have only been 9 at the time, which wouldn't be fair on her. It was just right at the end. I think it was like the second last day. You know, it might have been different if it was at the beginning. But I never got angry. My dad stayed with us that day. My mum said she wasn't feeling well because she was obviously upset, and she was back at the hotel. But I never thought anything of it. I thought she just like wanted to get packed and wasn't feeling that great. But yeah, it was hard. It was hard to understand what happened, especially that young. And especially not knowing, like now, not that it makes it any easier, but there's a lot more awareness about suicide and depression, and you know where it comes from, and that it is something to do with like a chemical imbalance and stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that person's upset in their life, that they're not happy. There's plenty of people that are happy, and it is just that. So yeah, I wasn't angry, no. I actually felt bad for them. Yeah, I obviously, because they didn't ken how to break the news to like yourself and your wee sister.
Yeah, and me and Ellie probably would have just been like annoying each other and annoying them, obviously not realising what was going on. I can't imagine that we would have been that well behaved on the flight home. So, yeah.
It's weird, as you were saying, he was sort of the life and soul of the party. I think it's weird how common that is for and people that do commit suicide. I think pretty much, not everybody, but I think the vast majority are in that sort of situation where they are the life and soul of the party and always seem happy on It's just a weird observation that seems to happen all the time.
No, I totally agree. I don't know if they feel like they have to put on more of a show. Obviously, because they're maybe aware they feel that way and they're going out their way to make sure that their loved ones don't see that side, or whether it's just the type of people they are. They're just happy loving and life just gets too much. I don't know. I don't know if I can ever really tell that. But yeah,
unless you can speak to these kind of people, you'll never really know.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, we had Gavin and stuff on, and he says he was just out in Lorenzo's one night, and then came home and he was ready for just obviously taking his own life, and it's weird how it works, just like a switch.
Yeah,
and it scares it. It's really scary that it can be as easy as that.
Yeah,
like,
and I think that's what's worrying as well, because like alcohol is a depressant, and you can be so drunk, and these split decisions can literally change your life.
100%.
That's what's quite scary as well, that because when you're out and you're having a good time, but then you go home, maybe you're by yourself, maybe you've had an argument with someone, and plus the drink, which is a depressant, like, you worry that people then just make a decision that obviously they can't go back on, and they wouldn't feel the same in the morning.
Yeah.
I think that's why people need to always check up on their friends when they get home, especially after when some people are really drunk or something's happened that night. I think it's really important to make sure that you are doing the best to make sure that your friends are okay.
100%. Like, I think it's a lot more common these days as well. Like, if somebody has been, say, either aggressive or upset when they've been out and have consumed a lot of drink, then they are well looked after. Like, because like you say, it's like the majority, well, not the majority, I wouldn't say the majority, but in certain circumstances, like, people who go home and do decide to take their own life, they've been heavily under influence, and you need to think, would they do that if they were sober? I don't think so.
Yeah.
But that's not for me to say.
No. It does seem to be a common theme that they have had a drink or on something.
So, just going back a wee bit again, like, obviously when you did find out, when you got back from your holiday and stuff, I'm guessing you didn't find out how exactly he died at the time, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. They told me he died, and then I remember I went for a shower, and I remember I just cried on the floor of the shower for about an hour, and then I went out and met my friend Jenna Yates. Met her down the Glen, and we just walked, and I just cried, and she was a great friend at the time. I just cried and said, and then it wasn't until I got back and we went down to my auntie's that I found out what had actually happened. When I see my cousin, I actually overheard the adults talking about it. I don't think they really wanted me to hear as much details as I did, but I did overhear it, which wasn't nice. I think men as well tend to choose more kind of gruesome ways to go as well, which is never really nice. I think women are more inclined to kind of take pills and stuff, where men more likely to kind of hang themselves and do stuff like that, which is just so horrible for the families around them as well.
It's a distressing thought.
Yeah, it is. It's not nice.
So, see, when they did eventually break the news to you, did you ever question, like ask the question, like, how did it happen, or did you just kind of burst out into tears and then go for your shower? Did you not even see the point in even asking that question, because regardless, it's the same?
It is kind of a blur. I do remember them seeing, and then I remember just being really upset, and I think they probably just kind of told me to, like, go and get myself sorted. I'm a very emotional person, so I probably was absolutely howling, and I barely can speak when I'm crying, so that probably just wasn't a great conversation. They'd probably just let me go and calm down first before we talked about anything more. I remember they must have told me after I was in the shower, because I remember in the shower thinking it was a car crash, and I don't know why I had that in my head, but for some reason that was what was going through my head. I was thinking car crash for some reason, which is so strange that we would think that. Now, my first thought if I hear someone's died is I worry it's suicide. Back then, that didn't even cross my mind.
It's strange though, because
Mm-hmm.
I think you've maybe jumped to that conclusion because, as you say, he was your life and so was the party.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
obviously, being 15, you're not really going to be aware of suicide that much, or like
no,
had maybe previous experiences of knowing people who's went down that route in the past. So
yeah,
you've thought it can't be anything bad because he was this lovely person. Like he must have
yeah,
just had a serious sort of illness or a
yeah,
devastating
yeah,
accident. But I know
mm-hmm.
I kind of ken why you've kind of got to that conclusion. Was it? Oh, it must
Yeah,
have been a car crash because it's so out of the blue.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. It was a strange day. It's strange where your mind goes in kind of traumatic experiences.
Yeah.
Like it just jumps to things rather than like wait to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Which unluckily now my mind jumps to suicide every time I hear anything bad, thinking that's what's happened to people. And it's the worst thing in the world. The pain that it caused my family, and the kind of stuff that happened in my family after that. It seemed to kind of open up some doors that maybe other people were feeling like that and they'd never said anything, and it maybe brought it to a head for them. So there
Yeah.
was a couple in my family that it kind of came out maybe a year or a few months later that they'd been feeling the same. And I mean, it's horrible as it is, at least one thing came out that people began to open up a wee bit more. And we were able to kind of target it before it came to that point for them.
So do you think that's like, I'm not going to say a silver lining for obviously your uncle, but like the fact that this is what I mean, like it's taken all these suicides for like to happen
For
for
this,
folk
yeah.
to
Yeah.
make a difference. I'm not saying really make a difference, but to feel comfortable enough and coming out and speaking about their problems and stuff.
Yeah.
But so maybe a silver lining isn't the right term to use for that. But if that wasn't to happen, like it could have been 3, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You know, sometimes it takes seeing the grief or like physically losing someone to realise, you know, well, I don't want to go like that. I don't want to cause my family this pain. They're seeing how it's affected us as a family and stuff. So
Yeah.
if it can maybe make someone, like if someone's friend had done it and they've been feeling the same way and they've seen, you know, the rest of their friend group and how much that hurt them, you would hope that they would maybe think, oh, I don't want to put them through this. Maybe there's someone I can talk to that can help me, so that I don't put people through the same thing, that I don't go out this way myself. So hopefully, I mean, we're saying that, but then these seem to just be going up and up, doesn't it?
No, I don't care. It's just, especially in the, like, obviously what's happening in the world right now. I think a lot of people are just feeling isolated, and seems like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Like as soon as we feel like there's a bit of positive news, and it's like bang, you're getting put back into lockdown and that. So it's like, for fuck's sake, give us a break here.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, at the end of the day, we've only got one life here, so you know what I mean. You need to live it. You can't be sitting locked up for months on end. Like it's going to get to a point, I feel, if it doesn't get any better anytime soon, that people are just going to start completely disregarding like any sort of regulations or restrictions that have been put in place. Because I'm at that stage, like I've been past caring for a long time, but
I know, and I think like these dates that they've got set up, although they're only a couple of weeks away, and you sort of can't, like, I'm sort of thinking like it's going to go wrong. Like the 26th of April's a date, but I'm thinking like there's absolutely no chance. Like because we've been told that many times that we're going to come out of this, and it's went right back, that I've completely lost faith that we're ever going to get out of this.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the hardest things about this is, see if they'd just said to us when we were going in, look, it's a year of lockdown, that would be horrible, but see this coming out, getting our hopes up and then going back in, that is so much more gut-wrenching than, you know, just having a set date. You know, I've got a year of this, we'll just put up with it. Whereas like getting told that you're getting out and getting excited, I've really found it really hard. Like, see, kind of, I think it was maybe November and then December that we were kind of, well, it was obvious we were going to go back into a lockdown, but at the same time, see, when that announcement came, I just actually broke down. My mum was like, what is it? And she was like, you knew this was coming? I was like, I don't know. I was like, I think it's just like the hearing it, like just trying to hold on to something and then going backwards. I think that's why people are struggling a lot more in this lockdown than the first one, especially with the weather as well. The first one, at least it was sunny and stuff. This one's not been so good over winter. Winter's a hard time for people, despite being locked in their houses.
I know, 100%, definitely.
This second one has been horrible. This one's been really bad. I think the first one, there was sort of like a novelty to it, like we've never went through this before. And it was actually quite exciting. You were like, like, is this going to be a zombie apocalypse, or like what's going on here? And the unknown was exciting, but when obviously we found out more about the virus and the fact that it probably could have ended a lot sooner than it has, and yet we're still stuck sort of indoors. It's just, I've found this really tough. Like,
yeah, definitely. This one has been a lot harder, and the weather does make it. You know yourself when the sun's out, you're in a better mood. So in that first one, we were going out in the summer. We were spending time in the garden, going for walks. It was easy to meet your pals because you could go outside and do stuff. Now in winter, you're not going to meet your pals for a couple of cans in the glen when it's peeing down.
I know.
I feel like just doing it anyway.
Okay, not to
take a brolly.
Take a tent and all.
So as you were saying, like the young people will just completely start ignoring.
I'll be lying to people.
It's weird, like that. Sort of at the minute just now that it's illegal to protest. Like
that's ridiculous.
You can't even protest against the restrictions that they're putting in place, because by protesting you're breaking the restrictions. It's like, and obviously with this bill that's coming in as well. I
do watch the news, mate, so you're going
to. So there's, to be fair, it's only affecting England and Wales so far, but it's just the whole premise that I'm not a massive fan of. But I'll go for the start. So, so do you know what about the European Convention of Human Rights?
Yes.
So like your right to life, right to a fair trial, all that piss. So in there under Article 10 or 11 is your right to freedom of expression and your right to assembly. So
which is a protest,
which is your basic human right to protest. So so that's no changing, and included in that is the ability for the government to restrict it, but it's got to be based on certain things. So like just like in law in England and Wales, there's like two types of protests. So there's like a public procession and a public assembly. So a procession is like a gala or something like that. So it's like a moving protest. So when there's a march or something like that, and then there's
anything but an orange one.
There you go. That's a public procession. And then there's a public assembly, which is like just a gathering in one area. But I think in England it needs to be 2 or more people. So the police have always been able to put controls on that, but it needs to be. I think it's fucking. There needs to be threat to public order, threat to the life of the community, threat to damage to property, or intimidation to other people. So that was like the 4 reasons why police could intervene in that. So that's completely getting fucking scrapped, and they're changing it to. Sorry if I get this wrong. It's fucking that if the noise of the procession creates alarm or distress, then they can intervene. The fucking noise. Like,
how else are you meant to chant?
That's what I mean. So they're basically, the police can put controls on any fucking peaceful protest that they like now. Well, no yet, it's still in Parliament, but that's what's being put forward, and that's why people are fucking protesting, and they can't protest because
they're not allowed.
They're not allowed. Aye.
But is that because of the first 4 that you say is about the threat to human life and that shit?
Aye, so
is that technically what coronavirus is?
No, so this actually started a while ago, but it was more to do with like it was coming in because of that Extinction Rebellion. Mind, there was people on the fucking trams and like all that shit. Like, so the police didn't have powers to intervene in that beforehand, so they needed to change it. So they've put this new bill forward, and it's been happening for a while. But just with this, the way that the Met dealt with that vigil for that's terrible. I can't remember her name.
Sarah Everard.
Aye, that the way that they dealt with that's all come to light. That they tried to protest and they've used coronavirus restrictions to fucking stop them protesting, and then this new bill's coming in to try and keep it like that, so that the police have got fucking much more control over protests. So
I think there was like an absolute riot in Bristol.
Aye, there was. I think it's because Bristol's so like it's obviously a university city.
Yeah.
So it's so liberal. That like that's where they fucking pulled down the statue as well. So in that bill as well is a 10-year prison sentence for pulling down statues. They fucking folk that were involved in the slave trade. It's fucking it's like I actually tried to read it. It's like 300 pages and it's fucking unreadable. Honestly,
politics. It's not for me. Yeah.
I think it's really not for me either. But I think with stuff like this, where I feel quite strongly about the about the coronavirus restrictions, that they've been a complete abuse of government powers, and I think it's going to be the most embarrassing fucking point in human history. But see, when we look back on this in 50 years, we're like, what the fuck were they doing?
Like the fact that it's been so strict and yet we've still got one of the highest death rates. Like, I wonder if how much difference it would have been if we'd actually just been allowed to do what we want.
I know, you would wonder if it would be
more
done by now. Aye. And really, and I feel bad, because I feel bad for the people working in the NHS and that, because by me saying that I don't think I don't believe in the restrictions, that by saying that it's some putting them in danger, but that's not what I mean by it. Like, they should never have been put in that position either.
Well, the NHS has been stripped for years, so the NHS gets overwhelmed every winter, just because of flu season. So that was always going to happen. They have definitely used that to their advantage. Exactly,
like the NHS has been underfunded for the last decade, and it's come back and bit them on the arse.
Yeah,
and everybody else has had to suffer because of it.
Yeah,
see, there's part of me I ken coronavirus isn't a con, it's real. You know what I mean? I've had it, but look at all these companies that are now keeping their workforce working for them because of the amount of costs it's saving them. And then you look at say the amount of travel that isn't happening, that it's cutting down on the CO2, carbon and all that shit.
There's definitely been benefits to it.
Benefits to it. So it's if they went this strong out to see if any of these things would change, and they think, fuck me, it's worked. Does there anything like that cross your mind?
I think no, I think I'm
not saying it was fucking 4G that started the virus, and that's not me. But
no, I think that
I'll be hacking off if this starts conspiracy theory.
I think that there's, as you said earlier, there's silver linings to everything that's shit, and that just happens to be a byproduct of this lockdown. That people are spending a lot more time with their families and less working, and I think they're definitely the good things about it, but I don't think that was the intention. When there's definitely a lot more negatives to it.
100%.
Definitely, yeah. Especially for people who live alone or live in a kind of situation where they're not happy,
exactly. Like for people
just
living in people living in flats in London and stuff like that, that are 20-story high, and they can't go anywhere, stuck in a box.
Yeah, that would be rotten. Yeah, it is definitely circumstantial how much worse off you are in the pandemic. I mean, I'm lucky. I've got a car that I can get to the Glen. I've got walks around me. I live with my family, so I know I've got it a lot easier than a lot of people do. But for some people losing their jobs, and people who live alone and maybe their family aren't in a distance that they can go and visit, or their friends and stuff, this year must just been hell on earth for them. I don't know how they've done it.
Ken, one thing that I've took for it is and it's such a terrible thing to take for granted, but actually being able to see someone, a loved one that's in hospital, you'd never ever think years ago that you'd appreciate that. Obviously you didn't want to see anybody you love in hospital, but now the fact that they're going to hospital regardless, but you're not allowed to go and see them.
Yeah,
I think that's a joke. Personally. But that's one thing that just to be things that when everything does go back to normal, if it goes back to
Aye, if
normal.
it goes back to normal.
The
This
amount
is
of
the new
things that you'll
normal.
think, fucking hell, I took that for granted and that. Like,
Aye.
even see when I'm watching TV programmes and that, I'm thinking, they must have filmed that at Folk Covered. There's far too many folk in that room.
And if you see someone hugging, I'm like, oh my god.
Aye, where's the fucking mask?
I know. Lucy said to me yesterday, she was in the, I don't know, I think she was in Asda or something, and there was like, I don't know how old they were, but it was a child looked at her and she smiled, and like the bear never like smiled back because she couldn't see her because of her mask.
Oh,
She was like, that's so fucking sad that you can't. Like, people don't even know. Obviously, you can see it in your eyes, but just stuff like that, just being able to fucking smile at somebody.
Yeah.
oh.
I just miss hugging. I'm such a hugger. Like,
Aye, I'm a hugger as
I
well.
love to. Yeah, I love to hug my friends. And
I'm a
like,
dancer,
there's nothing
something
about
like that.
that.
I love a wee biggie. But
I know, to
see,
be fair.
obviously you've been surrounded by your family and that
Mhm.
throughout all this, Kate. What is it you've done to keep kind of yourself level-headed and above ground and kind of half decent at for the majority of the time anyway? You done anything that's like lifestyle changes, like maybe doing more exercise or doing shit like that just to keep yourself happy?
I would love to say that, but I have been watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer 4 times. To be fair, I did
that's
pick
a
up the
throwback,
guitar again.
Oh, aye.
And to be fair, I was so lazy before because I was working obviously all during the week, and at the weekend I was always out all weekend. So I've definitely been going on like more walks and stuff like that. If I didn't go out with the dogs, I would be losing my mind. I keep meaning to go for cycles, but I've not done it yet.
You got a bike?
I've got my mum's bike.
I was going to say, you need a bike first if you want to go for a cycle.
Me like that, right? Should I go for a cycle? Oh wait, no bike. I know my mum's got 2 bikes, so I was going to just take hers.
I much prefer cycling over running. Like, it's a lot easier on the joints and that too when you get to this age.
Yeah. I know, we're no young pups anymore.
So I'm going to go back a wee bit again. Obviously, you say that like, after you found out the whole devastating news and that, you've had a couple of more kind of issues within the family with relation to suicide, and it's kind of gave you the mindset as every news is going to be the worst news, so it's like always preparing yourself for the worst.
Yeah.
So how do you think that affected your life? Did it take any of the enjoyment out of life for you at all, or was it a case of if I prepare myself for the worst, like anything other than that, I'm going to be all right?
To be fair, it definitely affected me a lot worse when I was a bit younger, maybe a couple of years ago. The last 2 years I have been a bit more positive person. But I mean, there was days before when I would wake up and just, I'm not religious, and I would wake up and pray to God that he didn't take anyone from me today. And I mean, there was times, I mean, when I've had friends who, because we've all had a drink, have told me that they like want to kill themselves and stuff. And I don't know how many times I've literally been sobbing, begging my friends not to do it, which is such a horrible thing. You know, like trying to beg somebody you love just to stay in your life. And at the end of the day, at one point, you're going to have to leave them. You know, you can't just stay with them forever. And that worry, like I was constantly worried. I did always think the worst, but I don't feel like that now. My heart does sink a wee bit when I see that anybody's died or anything. But I don't kind of wake up and think about it as much anymore. That I can go a week without worrying about somebody, which before I probably couldn't go about 2 minutes without worrying. I was always like, who have I not texted in a wee while, or I've not heard it much from them. I'll go for a drive with them or take them to the pub. I used to drag Greg to the pub with me every week when he was a wee bit down a few years ago. Poor Greg didn't even drink, and I would have him in like lock-ins till like 3 in the morning. He'd be sober like Kate.
Can he be a feel of him though?
Exactly. Honestly, so yeah, it's a hard one once you went through that kind of trauma between like my friends and my family. I've had some people who are really, really struggling to the point that I do have to worry about them constantly. But you do have to live your life as well. I think a lot of people kind of they take that on too much, which I totally did. I put my hands up. I would have done anything to help anyone, but that I wasn't living for me. I was just trying to make sure everyone else is okay. And another thing, this is one of the things that annoys me the most with this whole situation, is that when people are feeling down or they're feeling depressed, but there's not actually anything they can pinpoint that's wrong, so they don't want to tell anyone, because I quite often, my friends were like aware of my uncle and some of the stuff I'd been through, and a lot of them would say, oh, look, I didn't want to tell you, like, you've been through enough, or like, I know you've got stuff going on your own. But it's never a competition. It's never, oh, she's had it worse, so I can't speak to her, or oh, someone else is like lost so and so and so and so, so my problems aren't that big. Like, I wish people would just realise, no matter how small you think your problem is, people care and people will always listen.
Yeah.
I mean, I will always, if anyone texts me, no matter what day, time it was, and if I didn't speak to them again, I mean, I've had friends that I've fallen out with for like a year, and they've texted me and I've been round there the next second, took them out for a drive, listened to them cry, they'll get to be or something. It's where I normally end up sitting and having heart to hearts.
That's a cracking view, like.
It's great. So, you know, I think that's one issue, and I think when we overcome that, that will be an easier thing. But people need to stop thinking, comparing themselves, thinking, oh yeah, but you know, I've got a job, I'm in a happy relationship, my family are fine, but I feel sad and I don't know why. So then they feel like they can't talk about it. Like, that's not the case. Like, everyone still cares. You don't have to have a reason to be sad.
100%.
I think that's a big thing, because a lot of people kind of beat themselves up if they feel that they've not got anything justifiably making them upset, but that's not the case.
Well, let's be serious. If you actually knew, if you could put your finger on exactly what was making you feel so terrible, it'd be so much easier to fix.
It would, yeah, exactly.
But it's when you didn't ken, it makes it that much harder. So it's these kind of people that couldn't put the finger on it and like, I honestly feel shit for no reason. It's like, it's not for no reason. No, you just didn't ken what the reason is. Can't mean.
Exactly.
But I get what you mean about the whole competition side of things. Like,
I hate that.
Everybody's like their own person. So what might make you sad might not affect me in the slightest. So,
exactly. Yeah, I always try and put that point across. Like, some things don't affect people at all. Like, something totally tragic can not affect someone, and me being a Pisces, everyone affects me. Someone dies on the TV, that's me tweeting, you know what I mean? So you just have to speak about, if you're sad, you're sad. You don't need to have a reason, you're just sad. Talk about it, open up, go to people will always listen.
It's perfectly natural to be sad, and I think it's actually quite healthy.
Yeah,
like, you need to have time for yourself to hear that grief. And all that sort of stuff, because let's be serious, if everybody was happy all the time, I genuinely think I might hate my life. I couldn't be doing with that. Like, oh
no, everyone would do my head in.
Okay. Like, oh, you look great today. I'm like, go and fuck off.
Why are you always so chatty?
To be fair, like, I'm such an emotional person. I've said this, I think, about 50 times on this conversation, but like, I know when I'm due a cry. Like, see, if I've not cried in a while, I said this to my mum. Me and my mum went on a walk on Saturday, and the day before, like, my plans had kind of changed, and I feel, see, if I've not cried for a while and I'm obviously due one, I get really emotional about things that are like really stupid and I wouldn't normally. So like, my plans kind of changed on Friday, and I was so raging that I was like almost in tears with like rage, and I was like, it was nothing, it did not affect me in the slightest, but just because I was obviously pent up, like, I've obviously just not kind of let things out, and that's how I stay level-headed. Actually, I cry all the time, and it keeps me sane. You know, if you get it out, you can't, like, it's not bottled up, so that's why I just cry all the time.
Just sitting at the dinner table, oh, that's coming up for 6 o'clock, I'm away for a greet.
Honestly, my mum gets sick of it. I'm like, I'm definitely due a cry, mum. That's really annoying me. She's like, for God's sake.
go watch The Notebook or something. Marley and me, that'll get it out. So do you think, as you were saying earlier, like, that you've got to this point, well, you're over it now, but at some point you were worrying about people all the time. Do you think there's an element of that that's maybe like, I don't know a lot about the subject, but like PTSD?
Quite possibly, I would imagine so. I can't explain how much that affected me with my uncle when I was that age. I was just like totally distraught. I think as well, I'd lost my gran, and my gran was my best friend, and that didn't affect me in the same way my uncle did. And I think it was just the tragicness of it, the kind of not understanding, the abruptness, and I think that definitely was, it definitely triggered something in me that I really did struggle with it, just of the constant fear I could feel in my chest if I was speaking to someone that I was worried about. I think it was something like that, at least, that affected me.
That's
And
what as soon as you said that, I thought that's exactly what that sounds like. That that like going through that traumatic experience is sort of like affected the conversations that you've had before, and you're thinking that the same thing's going to happen again.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those. I think as well, obviously losing my uncle was terrible, but see, actually being able to help people, that obviously that was amazing, but it was also really hard in the same, like in the kind of opposite way, where it was like, because somebody told me that like I'd pulled them through and they wouldn't be here, I decided I could do that for everyone. So then you put this pressure on yourself that's like you constantly need to be there for everyone, which it just ruins your brain. Like I don't think I could properly function. I was just totally like a walking zombie, because all I was thinking was like, who needs me? Who can I help? Which just, I mean, it's not healthy. There's helping your friends, and then there's just not living for yourself, which I definitely do now.
You probably get to a point where you're in a position where you're not in a position personally to actually help someone, because you've not sort of focused on yourself enough.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I always say to other people as well. If I'm speaking to them, say like, you're not able to help anyone unless you're okay. So you do need to make sure that you're looking after yourself, and that, like, I wasn't at the time, and I am now, and that's why I think I would be better helping people now than I would have been back then. I was too emotional as well, so I feel like I was quite intense on them, with like checking up on them and making them talk to me, tell me what's going on, which now I would probably just let them come in their own time, let them know I'm here and I'll always be here, but without kind of forcing them to kind of come clean about things.
Yeah.
Which I think is a better mindset to be in.
I'm similar to you though, Katie. Like, you feel like you're like a sponge, you can just go about absorbing everybody else's problems, and they can go on and live their life, but you've got the strong mentality as if to say, like, it's not going to affect me. As much as I'm taking it off them, it's not going to affect me. But it's not until you've spent so much time caring for all these other folk, you forgot that you're actually your own person at the end of the day, and like, you need to live your own life. Like, as much as you're saying it's good to help folk, and look, I'm still the same to this day. Even if I have got a lot on my plate, I would still never not pick up the phone to somebody. But I was a bit different to you. Like, I wouldn't go, well, saying that, I wouldn't go like proper chasing them for like answers or that. But if someone needed to speak to me in their own time, like, I was always happy to help, regardless what kind of situation I was in. But there was one time, one of my pals, we were out one night pretty much, and he'd received some shit news, so I kind of done the same as what you probably done for 6 years or so there, and just thought the worst happening the night. Like, he's an absolute steaming mess. And what had happened is he walked away into the woods. So instantly I just felt sheer panic. So I thought, if I don't do something now, I'm never going to be able to live with myself if anything bad was to happen. So what I done was I phoned the police and just... Oh, sorry.
Shut myself up.
Okay, so that just to get to the punchline too. So I phoned the police, and I don't know if you remember the TV programme that was on. It was called Gone Missing or something, I think.
It does ring a bell, actually.
It was pretty much basically like footage that these TV crews that were following around like police when they were getting suicide calls or that, or like maybe attempted or something like that, just like somebody phoning about a loved one, they're like, I'm worried about them. And then what the TV show would consist of is like retracing that person's steps to see if they were obviously alive or whatever. And obviously when I've been watching that programme, I've been picking up on the communication. So I just basically phoned the police. I think, what was it I says? I think it was like, this is like a code red for a missing person. What does that mean, Scotty? Do you care anything
Not
about
a
that?
fucking clue.
So I says that to him, like, right, no problem. And I shit you not, within 10 minutes, there was dogs and everything down Dunfermline and in the Glen and stuff, like, hunting down, like, they were ready to send, like, a police helicopter and that out. And then I eventually got on the phone to him, and he was like, I'm in my fucking house, mate. What are you doing? And I was like, oh, fuck. So anyway, I had to phone the police again and be like, he's in his house, and she was like, right, well, we're going to need to go and see him, because obviously what you've been saying, it isn't putting our mind at ease tonight. So
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, that's fine. So anyway, I went home. The police went to his house and they actually arrested him. Well, not arrested him, but obviously took him out of the house and put him in the cells for the night, because they weren't convinced that if he was to stay in the house, he wouldn't cause harm to himself or others or stuff. So basically, I got an absolute mouthful of a message in the morning. You prick, I'm late for work, I've been lifted last night. But what I says to myself is like, look, would you not rather I done that and I was looking out for you than just fucking left you to do what you want and you had the potential to do something stupid? Like,
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't know he wasn't actually feeling suicidal, but when you see somebody walk into the woods in the state that he was in, I was like, that.
Yeah.
My hand's no right, it doesn't sit with me.
Yeah.
But then after all that, I think it was my dad. He sat me down and he was like, look, no matter how much you can look out for someone, like, even if you spend, like, say 23 out of 24 hours in a day with them, making sure they're alright, as soon as you walk out of that room, they could go and do what they wanted to do anyway. Like, you can't put this expectation on yourself, like. So basically that's what I was doing. And so you just need to remember, like, no matter how much you feel like you're helping, or like it looks like you're helping, at the end of the day, that person's their own individual self, and they're going to make decisions for themselves at the end of the day. I mean, we're all old enough now, we all make our own decisions and stuff, so we can't really hold ourselves accountable for if something tragic was to happen, because at the end of the day we have tried. But it's just, you just need to be careful when you don't put yourself out there too much, because it's up to the other person to kind of help themselves as much as obviously you need to help them.
To want to as well. That's half the battle. As if they're actually wanting to help themselves. Because I feel a lot of the time, sometimes some people are just willing to let others do everything they're needing. But they need to push themselves. That's like the first step, and then you can be there all the way through it, but they need to take first steps themselves. 100%.
So just before we go tonight then, Kate, this is your time to give advice to absolutely anybody who decides to listen to this on, say, maybe what you've been through, or just any sort of advice in regards to like looking after yourself, mental health wise, or if you were to come across someone that was maybe feeling suicidal or something, like, what would you say to anybody listening pretty much?
Definitely talk. Obviously everyone says that though, but have good friends. Honestly, that makes miles and miles of difference. Have friends that make you happy, not just cheer you up, like generally just make your life like happy and worth living. Find things that interest you, that keep you going. Mine's always been music, going to gigs, listening to music. After I lost my uncle, I literally couldn't sleep without listening to Bob Marley Lively Up Yourself, which is actually why it's tattooed on me. And that song, I always like that song because basically in Bob Marley's words he said, don't be a boring bitch, and I have lived by that since.
I can back that
up. So yeah, you've got to surround yourself with people who are good for you. Being in friendships where you're putting in too much and not getting things back, being in friendships where there's a lot of drama or bitchiness or competitiveness, it just doesn't work for you. You just need to be around people who have good energy. I think that made all the difference to me. My best friends, there's never a dull moment with them, which has just made me kind of enjoy life more and stop taking things so seriously.
No, 100%. You do need to surround yourself with people that have got like positive influences on yourself and stuff. But no, thanks very much for coming on tonight, Kate, and sharing your story. takes a lot of buzz. And I
It
ken
does,
you've got plenty.
I know, probably going to have a greet now.
Please, Derry, get yourself a wee glass of wine.
Great, right.
But no, thanks very much for that. I'm not sure this one might be either going up this Sunday or it'll be 2 weeks from then. We need to wait and see what's happening.
Yeah, of course.
I need to fucking piss about with the editing and that.
Mhm.
But I know you've done amazing, so you can be proud of yourself.
Thanks.
No,
I
you
hope
really
you feel
did.
better after kind of sharing
I
your
feel
story.
my face is like burning hot.
How do you
Oh,
think I
wasn't
feel at the sun at the weekend? But no, you done
smells like
class.
him.
And we appreciate it, and I'm sure other folk out there listening will appreciate it too.
Yeah, of course. If there's anything I can do, obviously give me a shout. I'm always happy to, kind of campaign things or do things for you, get anything done. So just always give me a shout. My inbox is obviously always open because I've got nothing else to do but sit on my phone.
You can come and be a producer for us if you want. They're fucking hopeless at that.
Aye, we're fucking
I don't know if I'd be
terrible.
much better, but I could try.
Right, I'll leave you to it anyway,
Right.
darling. Thanks very
Okay, it
much
was
for
so
that.
good to speak to you anyway.
You as well.
Even if it has been about sad things.
Right.
Right, we'll catch you at the pub soon.
Aye, definitely.
hopefully.
Right, bye.
Cheerio.
Catch you later.